Hi, my name is John Kissam, and this is my interview presentation. I chose to interview Chris Saconia, who is the manager at Farmers Insurance in Phoenix, Arizona. He manages roughly 20 employees on a daily basis. So, what I wanted to learn from Chris was more about his communication skills. Chris Saconia has the best communication skills I've ever seen in a person, and I just want to see how he's able to manage conflict in his work environment, how he defines being a successful leader, and what important communication techniques are key to success. So, when I did this interview last week, I asked Chris what he thought defines a successful leader. The, f- what defines a successful leader, he said, is the team he leads. Because once in a while, you may have a situation where a manager is a good leader, but just doesn't have an ideal team below him. But a true leader can coach a team to relatively successful state or will begin dropping dead weight and acquiring more adequate puzzle pieces. He also said that being an adherent listener is very important to being a successful leader as well. He says that everyone thinks that being a leader is about constantly talking. It's not. You need to constantly have your ear to the ground, looking for patterns or changes in the market or world that will affect your work environment. And most importantly, listening to the people you lead. You need an open door policy so your employees feel comfortable talking to you. No leader can be successful if the people he leads are trying to stray away from him. The textbook describes the leader as positive, supportive, able to manage relationships, and is trustworthy. I believe Chris's views on his job display this kind of environment. He has an open door policy and has a strong organizational method to reinforce his success. Also, on page 43 of the textbook, the authors talk about how the authoritarian method can be harmful because can increase hostility and aggression. Having a democratic system of leadership is more beneficial because members may exhibit more commitment and cohesiveness. I think Chris has a nice method in place for managing his team because I see a democratic leadership method at hand with him. He keeps his employees happy in a non hostile environment. Everyone wins. As far as emotional aspects of handling being a leader, one question I wanted to stress to Chris was how do you respond to someone attacking your emotions? So what he told me was, so you need to understand that when someone is attacking your emotions, it's due to a flare in their own, usually spurring from a place or feeling of frustration or disagreement. First things first, never stoop to their level or take the fight personally. Business is not run on feelings and emotions, it's run on logic and numbers. So when someone attacks your emotion, you need to just sit somewhat stone faced and deal with the problem as you would any other. Peel the onion, find the source of the issue, deal with it. You can't get overly emotional because that will just escalate the problem and cause more tension. As described on page 30, Chris is attending to the emotions of others. He's showing empathy by addressing emotions, and he's progressively trying to change the situation from a negative to a positive with his employees. He's providing emotional support. What I wanted to talk about is in the textbook on page 28, the authors emphasize the importance of having an ability to properly respond to emotions. So when I asked Chris how he handles giving emotional support to an employee who's struggling mentally, what he said is it's easy to tell when an employee is 100%. Whether it's their attitude or their performance, you can tell. When a team member is feeling that way, it's best to pull them aside and see what's wrong. Sometimes they just need to vent. It's worth it because that 20 minutes spent talking with that person can translate into 4 to 6 hours of diligent work. By being effective at communicating, the leader is able to build trust. So I want to relate this to the textbook because on page 40, the authors describe democratic leaders who are facilitating supportive communication, and how they do it is they create this constructive communication between management and employees. I believe Chris does a perfect job of finding the proper times to communicate with his employees. Having a democratic leadership is very beneficial in that aspect because everybody wins, opposed to just the leader that thinks he knows best, which is stressed in an authoritarian role. So from interviewing Chris, I learned he runs a team in a democratic fashion where he gets the firsthand opinion of others while making his decision. He displays emotional communication competencies when communicating with his employees, displaying ethical leadership, and he manages conflict in a composed fashion. I was really happy I did this project, and I learned a lot from him and myself. Thank you.